Hi everybody, welcome back to our read aloud. We are reading The Tale of Despereaux, and today we're going to be reading two chapters, chapters 49 and 50. And we are super close to the end, so I'm just excited to see what happens. So let's get started with chapter 49. What do you want, Miggery-so? Again, reader, we must go backward before we go forward. We must consider for a moment what had occurred with the rat and the serving girl and the princess down in the dungeon before Despereaux made his way to them. What happened was this. Vaccaro led the Pea and Mig deep into the dungeon to a hidden chamber, and there he directed Mig to put the princess in chains. "Gore," said Mig, "she's going to have a hard time learning her lessons if she's all chained up like." "Do as I say," said Vaccaro. "Maybe," said Mig, "before I lock her up, her and me could switch outfits so we could start in already, with her being me, and me being a princess." "Oh, yes," said Vaccaro. "Certainly. A wonderful idea, Miss Miggery. Princess, take off your crown and give it to the serving girl." The Pea sighed and took off her crown and handed it to Mig, and Mig put it on, and it slid immediately right down her small head and came to rest, quite painfully, on her poor abused ears. "It's a biggish thing," she said, "and painful like." "Well, well," said Vaccaro. "How do I look?" Mig asked, smiling at him. "Ridiculous," he said. "Laughable." Mig stood blinking back tears. "You mean I don't look like a princess?" she said to the rat. "I mean," said Vaccaro, "you will never look like a princess, no matter how big a crown you put on your tiny head. You look exactly like the fool you are, and always will be. Now, make yourself useful and chain the princess up. Dress up time is over." Mig sniffed and wiped at her eyes, and then bent to look at the pile of chains and locks on the floor. "And now, princess," he said, "I'm afraid that the time for your truth has arrived. I will now tell you what your future holds. As you consigned me to darkness, so I consign you, too, to a life spent in this dungeon." Mig looked up. "Ain't she going upstairs to be a serving maid?" "No," said Vaccaro. "Ain't I going to be a princess, then?" "No," said Vaccaro, "but I want to be a princess." "No one," said Vaccaro, "cares what you want." As you know, reader, Miggery-so had heard this sentiment expressed many times in her short life, but now, in the dungeon, it hit her full force. The rat was right. No one cared what she wanted. No one had ever cared. And perhaps, worst of all, no one ever would care. "I want," cried Mig. "Shh," said the princess. "Shut up," said the rat. "I want," sobbed Mig. I want. "What do you want, Mig?" the princess said softly. "Eh?" shouted Mig. "What do you want, Miggery-so?" the princess shouted. "Don't ask her that," said Vaccaro. Shut up. But it was too late. The words had been said. The question, at last, had been asked. The world stopped spinning, and all of creation held its breath, waiting to hear what it was that Miggery-so wanted. "I want," said Mig. "Yes?" shouted the Pea. "I want my ma," cried Mig into the silent, waiting world. "I want my ma." "Oh," said the princess. She held out her hand to Mig. Mig took hold of it. "I want my mother, too," said the princess softly, and she squeezed Mig's hand. "Stop it," shouted Vaccaro. Chain her up. "Gore," said Mig. "I ain't going to do it. You can't make me do it. I got the knife, don't I?" She took the knife and held it up. And here's a picture of the three of them. "If you have any sense at all," said Vaccaro, "and I heartily doubt that you do, you will not use that instrument on me. Without me, you will never find your way out of this dungeon, and you will starve to death here, or worse." "Gore," said Mig, "then lead us out now, or I will chop you up into little rat bits." "No," said Vaccaro, "the princess shall stay here in the darkness, and you, Mig, will stay with her." "But I want to go upstairs," said Mig. "I'm afraid that we are stuck here, Mig," shouted the princess, "unless the rat has a change of heart and decides to lead us out." "There will be no changes of heart," said Vaccaro. "None." "Gore," said Mig. She lowered the knife. And so, the rat and the princess and the serving girl sat together in the dungeon as, outside of the castle, the sun rose and moved through the sky and sank to the earth again, and night fell. They sat together until the candle had burned out and another one had been lit. They sat together in the dungeon. They sat and sat. And reader, truthfully, they might be sitting there still, if a mouse had not arrived. Chapter 50. in which the princess says his name. "Princess!" Despereaux shouted. "Princess, I have come to save you." The Princess P heard her name. She looked up. "Despereaux?" she whispered, and then she shouted it. "Despereaux!" Reader, nothing is sweeter in this sad world than the sound of someone you love calling your name. Nothing. For Despereaux, the sound was worth everything. His lost tail, his trip to the dungeon, and back out of it and back into it again. He ran toward the princess, but Vaccaro, baring his teeth, blocked the mouse's way. The princess cried, "Oh no, Rat, please, don't hurt him. He is my friend." Mig said, "Don't worry, princess. I will save the Meesee." She took the kitchen knife. She aimed to cut off the rat's head, but she missed her mark. "Whoopsie," said Miggery-So. And that is the end of chapter 50. So quick chapters today. Tomorrow we will finish up the book. So I hope you join me tomorrow. Thanks for listening.